Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of Allegheny County Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Jared, please take roll.
Ms. Bennett.
Here.
Mr. Bekowski. Here. Mr. DeMarco. Here. Mr. Dewar. Ms. Filiaggi.
Here.
Mr. Fatulis.
Here.
Ms. Hallam.
Here.
Mr. Klein.
Here.
Mr. Macy.
Here.
Ms. Nacarati-Chapkus.
Here.
Mr. Palmieri.
Here.
Mr. Palmacina.
Here.
Ms. Pritzio.
Here.
Mr. Walton. Here. President Katina.
Here.
We have 15 members present.
Thank you. We'll now begin with proclamations and certificates 12557-23.
A proclamation honoring Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Pittsburgh for recognizing January as National Mentoring Month, sponsored by Councilmember DeMarco.
Mr. President, could we hold off on this one?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think it's in Houston.
I've looked for Maggie.
She's on.
And it's not inconvenient for you to speak.
You're wrong. And
Good.
Folks, since 2020, well,
I did it first.
you were elected in 2021, right? Since 2021, many duties that were formerly handled by Councilman Tom Baker, the king of proclamations, have fallen to me, okay? This is another one, but one I'm happy to take and do because this is for big brothers and big sisters. So we prepared a proclamation recognizing them and the incredible work that they do on behalf of serving the young men and the young women in our communities. And I'd like to read this proclamation right now. Whereas for more than a century, Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America has operated under the belief that inherent in every child has incredible potential. As the nation's largest donor and volunteer-supported mentoring network, Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America makes meaningful, monitored matches between adult volunteers and children ages 6 through young adulthood and communities across the country. Call them Bigs and Littles. Whereas the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Greater Pittsburgh is our region's premier evidence-based youth mentoring agency, earning national recognition for program quality and organizational excellence. And whereas Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Pittsburgh serves more than 1,500 children throughout Greater Pittsburgh and the counties of Allegheny, Washington, and Greene. Children are of ages 6 through 18 who are encountering challenges such as low-income households, underperforming schools, bullying, and incarcerated parents, which are all factors that increase the susceptibility of negative outcomes. And whereas Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Pittsburgh provides children facing adversity with strong, enduring, professionally supported one-to-one relationships between the bigs and the littles, which changes the lives of these boys and girls forever by empowering them to stay in school, make positive choices, and reach their fullest potential in life. And whereas as a result, Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Pittsburgh programming earns the following evidence-based outcomes after 12 months in the program, and mentees show a 66% development increased feelings of social support, 87% reported high educational expectations, 57% earned above average grades in school, and 86% reported disapproval of risky behaviors. And whereas Allegheny County is committed to supporting its youth by eliminating circumstances that promote negative outcomes and welcomes the collaborative environment of the region's nonprofit, civic, governmental, and other organizations to come together and support our region's youth with proven, reliable solutions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Allegheny County Council member Sam DeMarco, and all the members of the Allegheny County Council recognize January as National Mentoring Month and proclaim January 24th, 2023 as Big Brothers Big Sisters Day in Allegheny County to recognize the successful outcomes produced by Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Pittsburgh in direct support of the well-being of our region's youth. In witness thereof, we have heretofore caused the seal of the County of Allegheny County to be affixed this 24th day of January 2023. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you have to say a few words.
Of course, of course.
I just want to say thank you to Councilman DeMarco on behalf of Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's an honor to be here. The work that we do is rewarding, but it's not always easy, I'm sure, just like everybody else. So to be able to come up here and receive this on behalf of the agency is really motivation to continue to do what we do, continuing to serve these kids and invest in these children and also these families. So thank you again.
Ready, pictures.
Okay.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Get it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Jared photographer too.
No, I'll do it. Okay, cool. Have at it.
You want to do this one?
No.
Okay. All right, everybody on me. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Do one more. 3, 2, 1. Okay, 1 second. Wait, one more.
Whoops, sorry.
All right, everybody. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Why?
The remaining proclamations will be read into the record. 12558-23.
A memoriam proclamation recognizing the heroic life of Brackenridge Police Chief Justin McIntyre, who was killed in the line of duty, sponsored by Council Members Bennett, DeMarco, Fatulis, and all other members of Council.
12559-23.
Recognizing the Firefighter of the Month and Years of Service Award recipients for the men and women of the Highland Volunteer Fire Department, sponsored by Councilmember Filiaggi.
Thank you. We'll now have public comment on any agenda items.
We have several. First up is Eliana Beagle, or Beigel.
Not here.
Next up is Tanisha Long.
Hey. Hi. A lot of unfamiliar faces, mainly because I don't see you guys at the Jail Oversight Board meetings, which is where the issue with Bethany Hallam occurred. And I say issue in quotation marks because I really don't find issue with it. What I take issue with is the continued silence of council members meeting after meeting when Judge Elliott Housey talks bad on Bethany Hallam, interrupts Bethany Hallam, does not allow her to conduct her official business as a councilwoman. Those are things you don't speak up on. But when she accidentally calls Judge Housey a prick, that's apparently an issue. Mr. DeMarco, you put forth this motion to censor her because you said her public behavior was unbefitting of a councilwoman. I would ask you to consider your own public behavior, because this is from your Twitter. You're under Rep. Adam Schiff's Twitter saying, yes, and please excuse my language, I'm just quoting the councilman, yes, douchebag, because I'm white and a Republican, I must be racist. That's how you think, isn't it? What an asshole. So if Councilman DeMarco is so concerned about the public behavior of Bethany Hallam, I would ask him to check his own public behavior, because how this looks to me, this looks partisan, this looks sexist, this looks like someone who has never shown his face at a Jail Oversight Board meeting trying to silence one of the few people who stand up for incarcerated people, one of the few people who stand up for incarcerated people who you spent quite some time on Twitter talking bad about, saying that they're probably there for a reason, denying racism in policing, saying that everyone who is incarcerated at our jail deserves to be there and that your concern is more for the people outside of the jail. People like me who have been incarcerated for reasons not my fault, through county error, through an address problem. People like Councilwoman Hallam, who has her own lived experiences and takes those experiences and translates them into better things for people incarcerated. When she walks into that jail, people have a shimmer of hope that things are going to get better. And I'm sorry, I have not seen, outside of Councilwoman Bennett, Councilwoman Hallam, and Councilman Katina, I have not seen you at the Jail Oversight Board meetings. So for you to waste our time, the public's time, and disrespect us and disrespect the dignity of your offices by putting forward or even supporting a motion to censor this woman for saying the word prick, when this is the person bringing forth the motion, is ridiculous. And to even vote yes on it would be the highest sign of hypocrisy. I would highly recommend that council takes their very limited time and uses it on the first Thursday of every month to go to the Jail Oversight Board meeting and work for all of the citizens of Allegheny County, which include the people at that jail. That's my time.
Next up is Mohammed Nasir. Next would be Nadia Narner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize.
You had to put that tweet back. Just give me a second. My name is Muhammad Ali Nasir. I go by Manny. I'm the Advocacy and Policy Civic Engagement Coordinator for One Hood Media. I'm a survivor of the ACJ, and I'm really uncomfortable in this room. I'd rather not be here. I spend all of my Tuesdays outside of the ACJ, tabling, waiting for people to get released. And that's where I would be right now, were it not for me standing up in support of Miss Bethany Hallam. I've seen over 350 people come outside of the ACJ. Like I said, every Tuesday since April of 2022. And everybody that speaks to me, everybody that speaks to us, talks about how horrible the ACJ is. Everybody talks about the deplorable conditions, the food. Everybody talks about rat droppings, rodents. Everybody talks about how disrespectful the staff and the COs are. And we all know that, you know what I'm saying? And you know, I've come to some of the JOB meetings, and I've seen some of the meetings on YouTube. And, you know, I hear the official reports and the statistics, yada, 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 but I don't get my information from the officials. I don't even really listen to what the warden says. I get my information directly from the source, from the people who are directly impacted, for the people that survive, because as we know, not everybody survives the ACJ. 17. So before I was a part of One Hood, I worked for an organization called the Bucket Bell Fund of Pittsburgh. Not really worked, I volunteered. And I posted bail personally for over 50 people. Right? And I cannot count how many people came up to me and said that me posting their bail, getting them released, saved their life. And I believe it. You know what I'm saying? And I cannot count how many people came up to me outside of the ACJ, where I'm actually about to go as soon as I get done here, with tears in their eyes, crying, just because we offer them a little bit of care and support and humanity that's missing from the ACJ. And all of y'all know that. Y'all know that. Y'all should, because it's y'all responsibility. You know what I'm saying? The only person that I've ever seen give an iota of care and concern for the conditions and for the people inside of the ACJ is Miss Bethany Hallam. So that's the reason I'm here. I won't be here for long, but I'm saying on behalf of One Hood Media, One Hood Power, the Bucket Bell Fund, Jailbreak PGH, Community Care and Resistance in Pittsburgh, we support you, we thank you, we appreciate you. Peace.
Next up is Nadia Narner.
I'll see you down there.
Next.
Jack Alto.
Excuse me, sir.
Good evening. It's been a while. There's been a lot changed since I've been here, but one thing that has not changed has been Bethany's commitment to the people of this county. That poem, remember that poem? First they came for the communists, and then they came for the incurables, and then they came for the Jews. That is directly applicable to prisoners. They are our most vulnerable, and that is where government abuse occurs immediately. That's a government facility. And for all of you to not be in those meetings and then to take this action is an abomination. That's disgusting to me, that you're wasting your time trying to censor Bethany Hallam. I'm enraged that I have to come down here and I can't delegate to Bethany to handle this because you're all interfering. And on top of that, we saw evidence of your behavior in public anyway. It's unconscionable. And this jail is a reflection of what our society is. Why are we spending so much money and so much effort to lock people up? It's at the there's an issue at the city level separately, closing summer pools and putting that funding toward police. But when you don't give people outlets, what are they going to do? If the city, again, I know it's a separate issue, funds lifeguards and public pools, the teenagers are occupied. They have things to do, things to learn, grow, live their lives. But when you set up this posture of incrimination and jailing first, you're setting society up for failure, and that's a reflection on all of you. And I see Bethany Hallam as the one who's working to change that, and you're getting in her way, and that pisses me off.
Next up is Mike Sully.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Sully. I've been here before. How you all doing? And now for something entirely different. All right, I'm going to be brief. Well, for 3 months, I kept coming and saying, give people a second chance, give taxpayers in all areas of the county, give them a chance, give them another bite of the apple, okay? There's a bill tonight. I understand there may be an amendment. I hope it passes, because I might just stay here until you folks pass this. 1252422. That's this year. That's just vote yes. And I'll apologize. My friends call me a one-trick pony. All I ever talk about is assessments. But you know what? A lot of people pay taxes. And some people, tens of thousands of people, are paying more taxes than they should be paying. And I'm looking to you, all 15 of you, to fix this. Thank you very much.
Next.
Next up is Janet Lund.
Not here?
Or not. And last would be Ann McStay.
First of all, I really appreciate it that we can speak in public freely. This is a wonderful country, and I'm really proud of it.
Can you lower the mic some?
And I'll say it again, I'm really proud of this country, and I'm thrilled that we can speak in public. This is fabulous. That said, the motion that will be presented today to censure a JOB member for using a single inappropriate word in public discourse evidences to me as a taxpaying citizen of the county, the JOB is focused on a member's lapse of decorum rather than its primary responsibility, the task of ensuring the county's jail is run with proper care and attention to serious problems, ensuring that the prisoners' health and welfare are attended to in equal measure with their making recompense for the crimes and misdemeanors they have committed, if they have. If censures are to be issued, there are two particular cases of failure to fulfill official responsibilities that do deserve attention. As County Executive, Rich Fitzgerald is by statute required to attend every JOB meeting, yet has, to my knowledge, attended only one in his 10 years holding this office. By statute, he is not allowed to delegate his attendance to anyone else, yet he does this every month, blatantly refusing to abide by the rules for his own office. Mr. Fitzgerald breaches his contract with the voters by doing this. They put him in office to oversee the county's operations, and he breaches it with taxpayers who fund his salary. He is beholden to the citizens of this county's operations, and with the taxpayers, yet does not fulfill his statutory responsibility as a member of the JOB, and therefore does not participate publicly in any review that is publicly at those meetings, in any review of the jail's operations, its prisoners' health and welfare, its staff's performance, performance or the warden's responsiveness addressing egregious issues. These issues include poor and sometimes contaminated food, violence against and high death rates for prisoners, the withholding or complete unavailability of critical medicines for medical care for health compromised prisoners. And I passed my 3 minutes. Oh, thank you. High staff turnover rates, dangerously short-staffed CO shifts, and other serious problems which have been reported over and over again in the meetings that I've attended and that I've heard about from others. On the JOB itself, Judge Howie, as self-appointed chair, generally avoids pressing for meaningful accountability from the warden. If I understand it correctly, he received a $10,000 campaign donation from Mr. Fitzgerald and could be seen to be beholden to Mr. Fitzgerald with a consequent conflict of interest affecting his willingness to act impartially toward other JOB members who question the status quo and toward the JOB's essential task. That task is to make sure prisoners, corrections officers, staff members, and the public are safe, that all of these constituents, especially families of prisoners, are informed about conditions in the jail, are kept apprised of loved ones' well-being, not made to wait 3 days to find out about a broken arm of their son. This was talked about last week. And are assured by reliable evidence of appropriate treatment. I am finished now?
Yeah, if you could wrap it up.
Okay, well, basically, the censure motion about a verbal faux pas is a waste of time and a disservice to the county. If we cannot have people who are in the highest positions in this county be held accountable, especially for the highest budget institution that the county supports. Where is the reasoning for censuring someone over a single word when, as we just heard,
if you could
other
wrap
people
it up.
do that? And I'm finished. Thank you.
We'll move on to approval of minutes 12560-23.
Motion to approve the minutes of the December 13th, 2022 regular meeting of council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. 12565-23.
Motion to approve the minutes of the November 22nd, 2022 regular meeting of council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. No presentation of appointments tonight. Unfinished business. Committee on Appointment Review. Does anyone object to doing all of these in a single motion?
President Katina.
I do.
Oh, hold on. President Katina, I don't, but I just wanted to, one of the appointments, 12540-22, I just wanted to have we had brief discussions in the Appointment Review Committee about how that appointment was going to move forward, given that it's the joint appointment to the IPRB with the administration. So we do not have full autonomy just to appoint that person ourselves. So I just wanted to ask if Chair Nakaradi Chapkus could explain what we had discussed in committee about how that process was going to move forward after tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Before I recognize you. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
President Katina, the Appointment Review Committee met last Thursday, the 19th, and we have the following, there are 4 that will be presented this evening. And just to respond to Councilman Dewar's request, it was, Chief of Staff Liptak was there, and it was asked to her how we would proceed. And if we move forward and affirmatively recommend, the affirmative recommendation will occur. And if this is voted on by with all of the proper number of votes, then this will be forwarded over to the county executive's office, and then they will essentially second it and put it together and sign it on a document so that they have, so it will be signed by both council and the county executive's office, both.
Okay, so they wouldn't object, obviously, to the appointment that a council move forward.
No, they've indicated that they will not object.
Okay, Councilwoman Hallam, I believe you.
Yeah, I just wanted to object to doing like a blanket altogether vote, because I have made it clear on the record before that I do not support any appointments from the county executive that exceed the duration of the first 2 years of the next county executive's term, because we're in a situation with a lame duck county executive who will be gone at the end of 2023. And the timeline on 2 of these 3 appointments from the county executive, December 31st, 2026 and December 31st, 2027, I can't support binding the hands of the next county executive executive, so I would like to only support the one that goes till 2025.
If we can do rather than do roll calls, I'll just do voice votes, and we'll make your voice vote. I mean, obviously, your voice vote, you can dissent.
Cool, thank you.
12540-22.
Approving the appointment of Dwight Bodorf to the Independent Police Review Board for a term to expire on December 13th, 2026, sponsored by Councilmember Walton.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. 12541-23.
Approving the reappointment of Arthur R. Pang to the Human Relations Commission of Allegheny County for a term to expire on December 31st, 2026, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Can I?
I'll second.
Correct. Thank you.
Jared, I'll
Are
second.
you making?
Thank you.
No, nobody made a motion on the first two.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good now? Okay. Okay, 12542-23.
Approving the reappointment of Reverend Dr. William H. Curtis to the Allegheny County Airport Authority Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2027, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. 12544-23.
Approving the reappointment of Thomas W. Headley to the Agricultural Land Preservation Board for a term to expire on December 31st, 2025, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Committee on Health and Human Services for the second reading, 12537-22.
An ordinance of the County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending and supplementing the Allegheny County Code of Ordinances, Division 2, entitled County Government Operations, through the creation of a new Chapter 290 entitled Law Enforcement Prioritization, sponsored by Councilmembers Dewar, Bennett, and Pritzia.
Councilman Klein.
Thank you, Mr. President. At its meeting on January 19th, 2023, the Committee on Health and Human Services considered the aforementioned ordinance, and it is before council at this time with an affirmative recommendation. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion?
Yes. President Katina. I just wanted to first off thank, this is my legislation, I just want to first off thank the members of the Health and Human Services Committee and all the members of council who I spent time talking about this during its construction and various versions that have been, that have come up. I wanted to thank the Women's Law Project for their time and energy in helping us put forward the best version possible of this piece of legislation and for their help in getting this up to full council today. You know, it strikes me that this is coming up only a few days after what would have been the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, and we are seeing with a piece of legislation like this, everything that's come out of that landmark decision being reversed last year. This legislation seeks to simply state and put forward that county agencies and departments deprioritize any and all cooperation with any law that seeks to criminalize abortion, whether that be from state, federal, or other local agencies. We're seeing a number of these laws being introduced all across the country, here in Pennsylvania, and you know, there's a lot of conversation about when and where abortion should be legal, but because of the overturning of Roe, we are now seeing that conversation move even further towards the criminalization of the seeking of one itself or the performing of one. And I believe since council has oversight, we have an interesting intersection of both the protection of the health and well-being of the residents of this county as well as the budget, that we have pretty interesting autonomy to pass a piece of legislation like this and should take the steps to do so tonight. So thank you, President Katina.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Councilman DeMarco.
Discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, President Katina. What I would say is, while I believe I'm pro-life and while I believe the Dobbs decision was correct and that it pushed it back to the states, okay, I don't believe in criminalizing this on the behalf of a doctor, a nurse, or someone seeking what they believe is reproductive care is the right thing. And that's why I'll be voting in support of this ordinance here. because I believe, again, that to tell someone that we're going to criminalize this is the wrong thing to do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Hearing no one else? Let's do a roll call vote on this.
On the motion to approve, Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Betkowski?
Yes.
Mr. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Dewar?
Yes.
Ms. Filiaggi?
Yes.
Mr. Fatulis?
Yes.
Ms. Hallam?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Macy?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Nacarati Chapkus?
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri?
Yes.
Mr. Paul Messina?
Yes.
Ms. Pritzio? Mr. Walton?
Yes.
President Katina?
Yes.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill passes.
12553-23.
An ordinance of the Council of the County of Allegheny ratifying an amendment adding Section 2105.87 entitled Control of VOC Emissions from Unconventional and Conventional Oil and Natural Gas Sources to the Allegheny County Health Department Rules and Regulations, Article 21, Air Pollution Control, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
Councilman Klein again.
Thank you, Mr. President. At its meeting also on January 19, 2023, the Committee on Health and Human Services considered the aforementioned ordinance, and it is before council with an affirmative recommendation. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Jared, please take a roll call vote.
On the motion to approve, Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Betkowski?
Yes.
Mr. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Dewar?
Yes.
Ms. Filiaggi?
Yes.
Mr. Fatulis?
Yes.
Ms. Hallam?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Macy?
Yes.
Ms. Nacarati Chapkus?
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri?
Yes.
Mr. Paul Messina?
Yes.
Ms. Pritzio? Mr. Walton?
Yes.
President Katina?
Yes.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill passes.
Okay. We'll now have the Special Committee on Assessment Practices for the second reading, 12524-22.
An ordinance of the County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending the Administrative Code of Allegheny County, Article 207, entitled New Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Review, Section 5-207.08, entitled Filing of Appeals, in order to establish special assessment appeal windows for 2022 and 2023 for properties impacted by court-ordered adjustments to the county's common level ratio, sponsored by Councilmembers Katina and DeMarco.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to ask for a vote on a waiver of the 48-hour rule for the express purposes of offering an amendment. We typically don't like to change or do anything in contravention of the 48-hour rule, but what happened was we only received a memo from the administration last night from the solicitor, and then a memo from our solicitor this morning. So we haven't had the 48 hours in order to take and introduce an amendment. And I believe that the people of Allegheny County who are being treated unfairly under this provision deserve relief. And I don't want to have this thing challenged because of language, which would delay their opportunity to seek relief under this. So I would ask for a vote to waive the 48-hour rule.
Second.
Do we need to do the main motion actually first, or do we do the waiver first? Does it matter?
The waiver first, and then you can vote on the motion.
Okay. So at this point in time, we'll take the vote on the waiver. So is there any discussion on the waiver? Okay, roll call vote then. Hold on. Sure.
Other than my usual comments, and Councilman DeMarco, I think, summed it up pretty well, so I won't bother to repeat it, that it's just not good practice to be amending the agenda because it deprives the public of an opportunity to comment. And like tonight, we did actually have an audience with people commenting. So that's all I want to say.
It points up, do I
Go ahead.
It points up how ludicrous the 48-hour rule is on its face. Less than 2 weeks ago, there was a motion to waive the 48-hour rule regarding Councilwoman Hallam's censure, and it was rejected. And tonight, although I think we're going to do the right thing, although the appeal issue is the right thing to do,
Here we go.
we are waiving a 48-hour rule, and I think council should review its practices and eliminate that 48-hour rule for offering up amendments.
Mr. President?
They should weigh and estimate on its face, on its value, and addressed in that manner.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mr. President, that while we hate to waive the 48-hour rule, sometimes things do come before us that we could be considered urgent. And I think the people of this county who've been paying way in excess of the taxes that they legitimately owe deserve relief as soon as we could possibly provide it to them. And I think if we're able to take and do this so that we can then make a motion and amend it so that we reduce the opportunity for someone to challenge it in court, I think that that's the prudent thing to do.
Thank you. Councilman Macy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Although I agree with Councilman Walton, I think that this issue has been bantied about. It's been discussed on I don't know how many meetings back in 2022. Now we're into 2023. So this isn't something new, but it is urgent, and I think it's of the essence, and I think we need to move forward. Thank you.
Just to comment on the 48-hour rule actually is not a county council rule. It actually is a state law, so we would need our state representatives to change the law. This is part of the.
That's what we're arguing about right now.
There's two different topics flying at this point in time. There's amending the agenda, which is a totally separate topic, versus the 48-hour rule.
Exactly.
So let's be clear about what we're doing tonight. So if there's no other comment, let's take a vote. Go ahead.
On the motion to waive the 48-hour rule, Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Bekowski.
No.
Mr. DeMarco.
Yes.
Mr. Dewar.
Yes.
Ms. Filiaggi.
Yes.
Mr. Fatulis.
Yes.
Ms. Hallam.
Yes.
Mr. Klein.
Yes.
Mr. Macy.
Yes.
Ms. Nacarati Chapkus.
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes.
Mr. Palmasina.
Yes.
Ms. Pritzio. Mr. Walton.
Yes.
President Katina.
Yes.
Ayes 14, noes 1. The motion passes.
Okay. Do we want to pass out the amendment?
Yeah, Mr. President, as our budget director passes out the amendment for everyone to review, all this budget or this amendment does is bring the language in the current bill in line with what the state statute says. So it just moves the assignment of the CLR, or common level ratio, from what Judge Hertzberger's ruling was to the state statute that says it's the STEB board that sets that. So this way here, we're in line with the state law, and it reduces the possibility of someone just challenging and delaying the opportunity for folks to be able to seek relief, you know, by challenging that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
I'd like to make a motion that we take and
Co-sponsor.
amend this.
You want to be a co-sponsor, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to be a co-sponsor?
I would.
I will as well.
Yes.
Is there anyone that doesn't want to be a co-sponsor? Okay. Or I think everyone wants to be on it. Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll move for a vote for the amended bill. Go ahead. Take a roll.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Clearly, there are multiple perspectives, but I think that we need to deal with the amendment, because the most critical piece is that we provide those windows for appeal for our residents. I introduced the initial legislation to do just that months ago, and I've been struggling with our delay and moving through the special process. But again, the most critical issue is that we give residents of Allegheny County that pay taxes on their property an opportunity to have this addressed in a constructive and equitable manner.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing no one else, I mean, I'd like to make a comment at this point in time. I mean, these special assessment appeal meetings have been painful, to say the least. The testimony that has been given in these appeal hearings and the testimony is just appalling. There's just one incontrovertible truth here. The county basically did cook the books with regards to the assessment appeals. Again, those aren't my words. They're the words of Judge Hertzberg. he ended up saying this because there has been litigation over the assessment appeals process, and the evidence clearly shows that the Office of Property Assessments manipulated sales data, and they did so in a fashion that resulted in artificially high property values resulting from appeals. Simple fact, period. There isn't a truth that anyone should be comfortable with. It's certainly not a truth that I'm comfortable with or with the committee is comfortable with, which is why I established the Special Committee on Assessment Practices last September to review this situation in depth. The committee has convened 5 times since early October and was showing much of the same evidence that the court was showing. I introduced this bill on December 6th, and the public notice that it would be under discussion by the Special Committee was sent out on January the 11th. The administration took no meaningful part in any of the discussions with the Special Committee and never offered any comment on this issue or bill up until yesterday. So if we talk about the 48-hour rule, the 48-hour rule is coming into effect, unfortunately, because the administration obviously failed to work with us and failed to notify us and failed to talk about this before yesterday when this has been out there for some time. Until 4 months after the Special Committee was created, until almost 2 months after the bill was introduced, and until nearly 2 full weeks after the administration and public were notified that the bill was going to be discussed in committee. Now, at the 11th hour and 59 minutes, the very same administration that presided over the book cooking has suddenly decided that it has theoretically legal concerns about a proposed remedy. That's ridiculous. Let me be blunt here. I don't care. Because this administration put us where we are, either the thought of cooking the books was legal, or they knew it was wrong and they did it anyway. There is no third alternative. Either way, they're conclusively demonstrated that their opinions on how assessment appeals should work are suspect, to put it gently. The ordinance does first 2 things. First, it creates the special appeal windows for the 20 and 22, 23 in order to account for those appeals that there have been or may have been. And secondly, it's hopefully going to tell the BPART board to follow the orders issued by the courts, that at a later date, obviously. So now at this point in time, I think we have an important decision to make. I mean, obviously, we heard testimony that, I mean, turned my stomach, that some of the stuff that was admitted in these hearings. And I don't understand why the county would allow this to go on. I mean, it undermines the integrity of government. I mean, how we got here and how we allowed it to continue for so long. And the orders that were given by staff, I just find it, I'm only one member of the board, but I know there's other members of the board that feel the same way as how appalled they were at hearing it. I mean, obviously, we're still not done with the committee hearings, and we still have other things to do. But it's just, like I said, it's just irreprehensible that all of this occurred. And it bothers me that it happened under, I mean, I know we're looked, secondly, I mean, we're sort of given a backseat, obviously, the administration, county council. I mean, we're not viewed as the same, obviously, in the same light as them. But this still happened on our watch, and it's disturbing to hear how the taxpayers were basically, I mean, taking advantage of it. It really bothers me. So I just think, obviously, that this is a step to do the right thing. Obviously, this doesn't rectify everything that we heard in those hearings or we heard in those meetings. But again, it's a step in the right direction, and I believe it's the right thing to do for all of the taxpayers of Allegheny County. But the fact that it got to this point, was a huge mistake. It should have never have gotten to this point. This council shouldn't be here tonight having to do this, but yet we are. And I mean, it's the tough decisions like these that need to be made. But it's the fairest decision for every resident of Allegheny County. So thank you. That's all I have to say. Gerald, you could take a roll call vote.
On the motion to amend, Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Betkowski?
Yes.
Mr. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Dewar?
Yes.
Ms. Filiaggi?
Yes.
Mr. Fatulis?
Yes.
Ms. Hallam?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Macy?
Yes.
Ms. Nacaretti-Chapkus?
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri?
Yes.
Mr. Palmasina?
Yes.
Ms. Pritzio? Mr. Walton?
Yes.
President Katina?
Yes.
Ayes 15, no 0. The amendment passes.
Thank you. We'll now have any liaison reports this evening. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving. Yeah, there you go. Councilman Walton, thank you for keeping me honest.
As amended.
Okay.
It's tough.
It's tough sometimes. I realize that, especially when I'm out of sorts. So, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there no other discussion? So, Jared, please take the roll.
On the motion to approve, Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Betkowski?
Yes.
Mr. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Dewar?
Yes.
Ms. Filiaggi?
Yes.
Mr. Fatulis?
Yes.
Ms. Hallam?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Macy?
Yes.
Ms. Nacarati-Chapkus?
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri?
Yes.
Mr. Palmacina?
Yes.
Ms. Pritzio?
Yes.
Mr. Walton?
Yes.
President Katina?
Yes.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill passes.
Thank you. We'll now have liaison reports this evening. Anything?
Yeah. Last Thursday, the Sports and Exhibition Authority met. I had sent an email through our staff to the members of council. Just want to make sure that you did see that and let you know that I want you all to know exactly what is going on the SEA. So thank you for that. And that's all.
President Katina, just wanted to thank all the members who were able to attend the ALOM legislative reception last week. There was a number of county council members there, but also a tremendous amount of local municipal leaders. Thank you all for attending. We appreciate it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Hearing no one else, we'll go to new business ordinances and resolutions. 12561-23.
An ordinance directing the referendum question regarding the amendment of the Home Rule Charter of Allegheny County in order to amend Article 3, Section 6A, an existing provision relating to seeking multiple county elected offices simultaneously, be placed on the November 7th, 2023 general election ballot, sponsored by Councilmember Dewar.
That will go to government reform. 12562-23.
A resolution of the County of Allegheny amending the grants and special accounts budget for 2023, submission number 1-23, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
That will go to Budget and Finance. New business motions, 12563-23.
A motion of the Council of the Allegheny County authorizing the settlement of the pending action against the Council of Allegheny County and Allegheny County in the United States District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania, styled Buca v. Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, and Office of County Counsel, Allegheny County, CA number 2:20CV00669, sponsored by Councilmembers Palmieri and Katina.
At this point in time, we are going to take a brief recess to talk about pending litigation, and we'll reconvene in the back room right here. At this point in time, I'd like to reconvene the meeting. Councilman Palmieri, would you like to make the motion? Would you like to make motion 12563-23? It's the settlement motion.
You want me to read it?
No, let him read it.
No, you don't want me to read it. Thank God. Okay. I make the motion. We
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. Jared, please take roll.
On the motion to approve, Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Betkowski.
Yes.
Mr. DeMarco. No. Mr. Dewar.
Yes.
Ms. Filiaggi.
Yes.
Mr. Fatulis.
Yes.
Ms. Hallam.
Yes.
Mr. Klein.
Yes.
Mr. Macy.
Yes.
Ms. Nacarati-Chapkus.
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes.
Mr. Palmacina.
Yes.
Ms. Pritzio. Mr. Walton. President Katina.
Yes.
Thank you. Ayes 13, noes 2. The motion passes.
Thank you. 12564-23.
Motion of the Council of Allegheny County censoring Councilmember Bethany Hallam for conduct detrimental to County Council, specifically her actions during the January 5th, 2023 meeting of the Allegheny County Jail Oversight Board, sponsored by Councilmembers DeMarco and Macy.
Councilman DeMarco?
Yes, Mr. President. I introduced this censure motion to censor Councilmember Bethany Hallam for conduct detrimental to County Council in representing County Council at the Jail Oversight Board meeting with the comments she made regarding Judge Halsey. And when called out by Judge Halsey, she had an opportunity to just apologize or say anything, but she doubled down. I just think that the behavior is beneath the dignity of our office, and I think needs to be handled accordingly. And what we do outside of county council business is completely different. So there was no censure motion offered for her tweet saying, F yeah, never burned a police car, or calling for riots if elections didn't turn out properly. We all have our First Amendment rights. However, in this particular case, I just think that that behavior is beneath the dignity of someone on county council. And, you know, I don't understand, you know, why it persists. I mean, we've had former President Judge Kim Clark, you have Warden Harper, you have Judge Housey, and the funny thing was she was asking about personnel matters and an active police investigation, which just as we had to take and recess for executive session to go back and talk about a personnel matter, you can't talk about these things in public session, and Judge Housey was just trying to move this thing forward. I mean, Ms. Hallam is a colleague of mine. We've gotten along for the most part over the last 3 years, though we differ in opinion. But I mean, I just, at a recent Board of Elections meeting here, you know, she voted to take and not certify, you know, 12 precincts or 12 voting polls because the judge hadn't ruled on them yet. And she displayed she was fine from a behavior standpoint there. I just think if you want to solve a problem, you have to be able to work with someone, and I don't think calling them names, particularly a sitting judge, is the right way to go. Ms. Hallam is up here because she has earned this position. I believe Judge Housey has earned his. So that's why I've offered this motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made.
No, guess not.
Is there discussion at this point in time? Obviously, Councilmember DeMarco opened discussion, but is there any other discussion at this point in time? Councilman Bukowski.
A subject that's come up from time to time in our meetings has been how to deal with personnel matters and disciplinary matters. And in my training, what I was taught to do was to look at how similar situations had been handled prior and whether actions that I would take would be consistent. So, for example, whether in the recent past, have there been occasions where members of council have used vulgar language in a public meeting? And then to compare the types of disciplinary actions that were taken to ensure that there's consistency. You know, for example, if in one case an individual a single time used a single word, and as reported in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, in a hushed voice, and then compare it to two other recent occasions where members of council used a vulgar language in a quite loud voice repeatedly, and to compare whether we are treating these cases similarly. Also, I was trained to look at the proximate circumstances of the disciplinary incident. For example, is there anything proximate to the occasion that would indicate that a protected class was affected? For example, was there racially charged language used surrounding the incident? Discussions such as Jim Crow or the number of jelly beans in a jar, things that to a reasonable person, based on a preponderance of the evidence, might indicate that some type of bias differentiated the two different forms of treatment. Now, I know that County Council is yet to go through their official training. However, I felt that since we have discussed this repeatedly, that I should at least offer the advice and training that I have received as a member of management.
Thank you. Councilman Dewar?
President Katina, thank you. So I will be, if we are indeed voting on this tonight, I will be abstaining. I feel like this is certainly a decision that should have been discussed further, and my colleagues should have been given time to, and us as a collective whole should have been given time to discuss this in committee. I feel rushing this to a decision on the floor is, you know, a bit headstrong, and I know given if you know, mine was eventually pulled, but I would have liked if, you know, I know people have been comparing my potential censure prior. I would have been like to be afforded that if my censure would have continued to go forward. My potential censure would have continued to go forward. So I will be abstaining tonight for that reason, insofar as that I just felt that whether a yes or a no vote, I would have liked to see us discuss this more holistically as a council to talk about, you know, the conduct of one member, but also the conduct as a whole going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? Councilman Klein?
You know, you might think that common sense would dictate what would be a censurable act or censurable behavior. But that is not at all clear to me, based on my experience here in council, and maybe even more largely considering this matter. I mean, I have this innate feeling that a motion of censure is kind of nonsense, kind of, you know, meaningless. I don't know what the implications are, the impact. And I would, you know, echo what Mr. Betkowski said in terms of, so what is the standard? And that is not at all clear to me. So I will be voting not to censure.
Councilwoman Nakaradi-Chapman?
I would just like to agree with council members Betkowski and Klein and agree with them as well. There's no consistency, and we can't just certainly pick and choose when this issue comes up. So for that, I will be voting no.
Thank you. Councilman Macy?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. I could see a clear difference between someone using vulgar language or using profane language in a discussion when the issue gets a little heated. However, I believe attacking or name-calling another person, especially someone that's an elected official, there is no respect, there's no decorum there. And so I can see there's a difference. It has to stop somewhere. We do have our rights, our freedom of speech, but my goodness, we also should act like professionals. So even though this particular vote may go down, the issue has been brought to the attention of the public. And it's amazing how we all get tarred with the same stick. When I'm in my district, people will say, what the heck's, well, they don't use stronger language. What the heck's wrong with you people down there? Well, it's not me, and it's not Paul Klein. It could be other people. No. But that's what's happening. People are looking at us because of our actions in professional surroundings and public meetings as a joke, because we're not using respect and decorum and council rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Councilman Futulis.
Okay, thank you. Well, try to make the long story short. The first time I actually saw it was on Twitter, and quite frankly, do you believe everything you read? Sometimes you don't. Then I saw a video, so I wanted to believe, well, I saw the video, so I guess it must be true. And I thought to myself, well, that was pretty horrible. But sometimes people say things that they don't really mean, and I was actually waiting for Bethany to apologize, and if she did, I would certainly give her that chance to do so myself, because everybody deserves a second chance. That hasn't happened yet, and you still have a chance, by the way. And my other thought was, you know, I had co-sponsored this at a while, and I withdrew my name because I realized that maybe it wasn't the right thing to do at the time, because it didn't happen here. It happened on the Joel board, and if they thought it was so horrible, maybe they should be the one to censure Ms. Hallam, not us. For that reason, it really doesn't incur that happened on this board against us. So, I mean, I'm no angel. I dropped the F-bomb on a guy one time myself, so, but I apologized on Channel 4 News the next day for it, and I was truly sorry for my use of words, but not for my convictions. And I believe the same with her. It was a poor choice of words, but her convictions and her steadiness to save the people in the jail, I applaud that, okay? So, yes, I think you did a good thing, but your use of words should be reversed, and apologize to the judge. Say, Your Honor, Judge, I didn't mean it, even though I really did. You know what I mean? Well, I'm talking about not necessarily the words, but the fact that I care so much about the jail. And for that reason, you know, I'm not going to vote yes. I'm going to vote no, because I think that may be the right thing at this point to do. Thank you.
On the motion.
Council, there's still people talking. Thank you. Councilwoman Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, President Katina. So I agree with Councilman Bukowski and Councilman Klein, and even Councilman Fatoulis, surprisingly. So not on the apology part, but the part that we have seen this happen on our own body, our own legislative body, and nothing has happened due to that. And so we're going to go outside of that body to try to censure one of our members for something she did outside of this body, when we haven't even done that for the disrespect, if you will, that's happened in this body. So I will be a no vote as well. Thank you, President Katina.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Councilman Dewar?
Just a quick follow-up, President Katina, on my first remarks. For me, one of the things that I want to talk about in committee and wish we had it for a time is the distinction between individual council members' conduct on this body and when a council member is representing the body as a whole on a board. So I represent County Council on the AWOM board, significantly less controversial than the Jail Oversight Board, no doubt. But one of the things I was talking with the co-sponsors of this bill about when they introduced it was that notion of representing a whole instead of the individual. So when we're sitting up here in these seats, we're representing our districts, but we're representing ourselves as well as individuals, as individual council members of our districts. When I'm representing myself on the A1 board, when Councilwoman Hallam is representing as your designee on the Jail Oversight Board, she is representing, in my opinion, all 15 members. So while some members of this council might see this censure coming forward as, a bit unorthodox given that it happened outside of this body, I would argue that, that notion of representing the whole, especially of this body, of everyone, it wouldn't be completely unfounded for it to be introduced. Once again, I wish that this would have been further discussed amongst us collectively as a whole in a much less emotionally charged setting than this in committee, where we could have come to hopefully a more amicable agreement. So thank you.
Councilwoman Falaji.
Thank you, President Katina. And I would like to echo Councilman Dewar's comments, his previous comments and these. I do believe that this was inconsistent with what normally happens with these types of motions. It was my understanding this would be assigned to a committee, and I think that is what should have happened. So again, as Mr. Councilman Dewar had said, we would have an opportunity to actually discuss it in a less charged environment. And I think that we would have been able to come together and have some thoughtful discussion on appropriate actions of council members. I do agree with Councilman Dewar that in the position that in which Councilwoman Hallam was sitting, she was representing all of us, and I'm not happy with that behavior. I am a mom. I'm 54. I am a mom of 3 kids, and so I use the word behavior, and because it is something that is reflective of all of us, and that is disappointing to me. And I think that if we were able to sit around instead of having the audience that is clearly skewed to one position and who doesn't necessarily even take other comments seriously, the snickering and the laughing, this is very serious. And I'm new to council. I've been here since April, and I've seen some things that I would like the opportunity to discuss with my council members, not necessarily have everyone else be in on the discussion. We're sitting at the same table, and they're public meetings. They are public meetings, and they are transparent. But when you are in a committee, just so you know, and everyone is welcome to come, we're sitting in a round table, and we can actually look our fellow council people in the eye, and we can have an impact. And we have had impact. There are people that have changed their votes during those committee meetings, and there are people that have changed their attitudes. And I've appreciated that. I've appreciated the opportunity to give my side and looking someone in the eye. You can't look anyone in the eye in this particular setting. So I wish we would have, President Katina, which I think this is an inconsistent way to have handled the motion since we're discussing inconsistency. I agree with Councilman DeMarco's assessment that Judge Housey clearly deserves respect, as does Ms. Hallam. Judge Housey, I have worked with him for 25 years. He is the epitome of a public servant. He was in the assistant district attorney's office. He was the public defender, and now he's sitting as a judge. This isn't a joke. It's not up for debate. We voted for him. He won. Respect, that's what it is. So this means to an end attitude that goes on in the bravado, it's just not appropriate. That's my vote. And I'm asking that if not now, to discuss some of these attitudes that don't belong in public office, then when? Thank you for the opportunity.
Councilman DeMarco?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. A couple of the council members have brought up some things where they've mentioned that foul language has been used on council before and nothing was done, okay? I would point out that there's a difference here. This isn't about foul language that was being used. It was a direct attack on a particular member of the Oversight Board. We have rules in council that any of us can be censored if we directly attack one of our colleagues. And that's why we're not supposed to refer to them, you know, by name, or particularly that's why you see folks in legislative bodies refer to these folks as my friend, my colleague, that sort of thing there. So there's a difference there. This isn't a matter of someone on council saying a bad word and someone not responding to it. It's a matter of a direct attack upon somebody and their reputation. And the second thing is for the folks who that is an issue for the language that was used on council, and they have a problem with that, every one of us here has had the opportunity to offer a censure motion, you know, on regards to that. So when we talk about inconsistent treatment, you know, these folks have not seen fit to introduce a particular censure motion in regards to that language. So I would just point that out. There is a difference. That's what the difference is, and that's why I sponsored this legislation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Hearing no one else, just one. Do you want to make a statement, or?
I want to vote.
Okay, I want to make a statement. Just real quick here. I've gone to the jail committee, or the jail oversight board meetings. When Bethany is my replacement when I'm not in attendance at those meetings. But I can tell you, from firsthand experience, the meetings that I went to were frustrating in the least. Calling someone a prick, unfortunately, at those meetings, I mean, I understand. I mean, things get heated and things can get out of hand very quickly. But those meetings are very frustrating. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of answers given. I tried to get answers out of the warden myself, Judge Housey stopped me and asked me to wait until after the meeting to get that information from Judge Housey, to get that information from the warden. The warden was supposed to stay after the meeting. He decided to run away from me. I couldn't get the answers that I waited for patiently after the meeting. I waited 25 minutes for the warden to wait and to speak to me privately, because that's what Judge Housey promised me. Needless to say, that's a little bit disappointing. I know that has nothing to do with the censure motion tonight, but it's frustrating to the fact when you go to these meetings and you're not getting answers. Oversight, look at the word, oversight. That's what it's supposed to be. And right now, I mean, obviously, the Jail Oversight Board, looking at the entire board, it's a very big disappointment in my personal opinion. And that's all I have to say on that. At this point in time, please go ahead and take the vote.
On the motion to approve, Ms. Bennett.
Unequivocally, no.
Mr. Petkowski.
No.
Mr. DeMarco.
Yes.
Mr. Dewar.
Abstain.
Ms. Filiaggi.
Yes.
Mr. Fatulis.
No.
Ms. Hallam.
No.
Mr. Klein.
Yes. You should have voted yes.
Mr. Klein.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Macy.
Yes.
Ms. Nacarati-Chapkus.
No.
Mr. Palmieri.
No.
Mr. Palmesina.
No.
Ms. Pritzio.
No.
Mr. Walton.
I'll abstain. And for the first time during my tenure on council, I will explain why I abstain. I'm that boo-boo here on council that uses real strong language and fights vigorously for what they believe. And I've called some folk some names. And I will do it again, because I will fight vigorously for what I believe. I will fight vigorously for the people that I represent, and I'm not taking no bullshit off nobody. Not today, not next week, not next month, not next year. As long as I breathe air, I'm gonna represent and do what I believe is right. So when I was asked, I said I had to abstain because people that live in glass houses should not throw rocks. So I'm gonna abstain.
Point of order.
Now, look here. If it had been me and my colleague having that conversation, I'd have handled it a little bit different.
Robert's rules.
Yeah, you guys are coming. If you come messing with me, I'll do something to your ass.
Are you good? Done? Okay.
President Katina.
Hold on a second. Councilman DeMarco, you asked early on if it was personal or anything, more remarks shouldn't be addressed toward. I believe you got your admission right there on public record. So, so there you go. Yes, or no, I'm sorry.
Ayes 3, noes 10, with 2 abstentions. The motion fails.
Notification of contracts.
We have none.
Public comment on general items.
We do have a few. First up is Anna Ellenberger.
Not here. Come.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Anna, and my husband and I have been foster parents for almost 3 years in Allegheny County. I'm here to inform you of the gross abuse of power by Allegheny County CYF and their culture of intimidation. My husband and I are both very involved in the Pittsburgh community in many ways. I'm a physical therapist who specializes in women's health. I volunteered an after-school program for teens in East Liberty and support athletics among minorities in our city through the Black Girls Do Bike Pittsburgh chapter. My husband serves as a law enforcement officer, and we are both active in our diverse church community. We recently fostered a little girl who was African American from infancy to about age 2. However, CYF abruptly moved her to a different foster home for reasons which centered around unsubstantiated false allegations made by caseworkers and an anonymous source that I made negative comments about the child who we cared for deeply and her mother. We believe that this act was taken in retaliation because we continually advocate advocated for the child's basic needs. We asked for simple things, such as consistency surrounding her parental visits and allowing her time to take a nap. Our advocacy upset caseworkers, so with complete disregard for the child's basic needs of permanence and stability, they asked the courts to remove the child from our home, even though they acknowledged that she was safe and well cared for by us. They took advantage of the fact that foster parents have little to no rights in court and gave the court misleading information that we were not allowed to disprove, even though we had documented evidence against their claims. The court told them to make the transition as gentle as possible. So what did CYF do? Without telling us their plan, they brought her to a parental visit, and as soon as it drove away, they texted us telling us she would not be returning. Since that day, more than 4 months ago, she has had no contact with the family or home that she lived with for the first 2 years of her life. During this entire ordeal, no one, not even DHS Director Aaron Dalton, would even acknowledge that this transition could be traumatic for the child. We have heard story after story of CYF causing unnecessary transitions for foster children and intimidating and retaliating against foster parents who advocate for the children. This harms some of the most vulnerable members of our community, many of whom are from racial minorities. In fact, African American foster children are more likely to experience 3 or more transitions in the system than Caucasian foster children. Intimidation and retaliation by CYF causes disillusionment and burnout by those who are willing to foster, reducing the number of homes available for children who need them. We are asking for 3 things: that an external audit be conducted of how long children spend in the foster care system and the number of transitions they are exposed to, in particular among minorities. 2, that an investigation be conducted on CYF's culture of intimidation and retaliation toward foster families. And 3, that the system embraces the concept that transition and the breaking of bonds is trauma for these children. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll be emailing you our supplemental materials as well as the county executive. Thank you.
Next up is Billy Vaughn.
Hello. So let me tell you guys, it's so crazy. I am a strong believer in God because I came down here to support the newcomer tax, right? But I said, you know what? I'm going to introduce myself because I'm an advocate. I'm a resident. I usually go to city council, and I just wanted to come and introduce myself. And at first, I'm like, you know, I feel like I'm listening to something in Japanese. I don't understand what's going on. I'm ready to go. But it's just so crazy that I'm here, and I had no clue about the situation with Judge Housey and Bethany. No clue at all. I was just like, what's going on? So I do have a comment that I want to speak on that, but just introducing myself as like an advocate for residents, for myself. Even what the speaker just said before me, one of the biggest issues is organizations that are being funded through you guys' budget. There's issues with it actually, the support through the funding getting to us residents, you know, so who's doing the checks and balances, the audits for these organizations? And I'm just using my voice as a resident to speak on it. But one thing I want to say with, and I just want to give some middle ground to the situation with Bethany and Judge Housey. I didn't know anything about this, but what's funny is, you know, I support Bethany for what she does as supporting marginalized groups with the county jail. But it's funny that as someone who's been through the system, Schumann, the county, changed my life, got my record expunged. I'm doing so many things for the city. And I actually had a job down here as a tip staff. And through my whole journey of me changing, Judge Housey was my lawyer. Judge Housey helped me with my expungement, and Judge Housey hired me as a tip staff. So what happens a lot, and when I was his tip staff, he wasn't on that, he was not on that board. But what I see and what I'm learning is that, you know, they'll put the same people that's doing the work for the same, you know, the same cause against each other. So we got a Judge Housey is actually supporting the same marginalized groups as you. And I will be one to say that. He's been there because I'm one. I'm one. And if you look at my name to see the wonderful work that I'm doing, he has been one that played a huge part in that. So we just can't let outsiders come in and infiltrate the system to change, and now we're fighting each other instead of the system that we need to be fighting. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Last up is Andrea Williams.
Not here?
Not here.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.